Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here, both to the audience and to our great guests today that are helping us to launch this communication hub by Elevate Latinos. We are so excited that all of you are joining us in this official day where this digital new platform designed to inform, connect, and activate young Latinos across the United States is launched. We are lucky to count on this incredible, impactful leaders, young leaders today, four incredible speakers. I'm sure most of our audience knows them, know them, and you guys, I'm sure, follow them. I'm a fan, so I follow all of them. And they are just the biggest Latino influencer voices in the United States today. So we are extremely lucky. Each one of them has a specialty field that you'll hear about, and they all bring huge insight, not only in what we're doing today, but in the life of all young Latinos and young people in America. Quite frankly, they are young leaders in this country, period. But first, I also want to tell you a little bit about how excited we are at the Elevate Latino platform because we've been this has been a project of love. We started working in this communication hub 2 years ago. We've counted with a lot of help from special consultants, communication experts, and it really represents for us the second phase of the Latino Donor Collaborative efforts. As you know, our mother organization is Latino Donor Collaborative. Originally, we've been focused on I'm not going to be ageist, but more seasoned leaders in this country. But this Elevate Latinos is our poem, you could say, to Latino youth. If we, in my generation, did some sacrifices and maybe came to this country, the truth is that the second generation, which is the one that is accompanying us today and the one that is Communication Hub is directed to, is really the piece of resistance. You guys are definitely our piece of art. We are amazed of what you're doing. For those that follow the Latino Donor Collaborative, we have been very focused on youth since about 3 years ago that we did our first report with SHIP, the Society of Latino Engineers, when we realized that all the efforts of this community are really coming to fruition with this generation of people that are graduating in this decade, people that are young, that are entering the workforce, that are starting to vote. And so since then, we've been really focused on this cohort, on the young Latino cohort. And we expect that this communication hub will actually gather all those efforts that we've been doing in the last 3 years to reach and empower you, to reach and give you tools for you to know always to start with, to know the value that you bring to this country, the value that we parents, some of us immigrants, brought to this country when we came here, but the value that you're giving just because you were born, and most of you were born in this country. You are not only the workforce, you're not only the academic, excellence, but you're also the people that are bringing the growth. And so this communication hub is poising itself to become the hub where you'll find our social media, our a lot of the things, right, that we well, to start with, let me tell you, you can access the hub for free always. Everything that we do is free, so you don't need to do anything except go in, download anything you want, connect with anybody you want. There's an enrollment button that you'll see there where you can actually sign up for the newsletter of Elevate Latinos. It's optional, you don't need to, but if you want to hear about us every week, every 2 weeks, then please sign up. That would be really good. But you can go to it just going on your browser to elevatelatinos.com, or by screening the QR code on the top right of the screen right now. So you can go there. This is the great thing, and this is how I'll start with our conversation with our guests. But more importantly, I want to tell you that you will find us there. You'll find our social media. We are growing fastly, thank God, at in all the platforms that we're in. You'll also find the most updated data that we release so that you know the numbers, right? Sometimes data is the best argument we can have whenever we are either looking for a job or applying to a school or even simply empowering our presence wherever we are, and even for ourselves, just to know the kind of economy that our parents, your parents, have built, and the kind of economy that you are contributing to in this country. You'll also find something that is new. We're really excited, which is a Substack account of Elevate Latinos, and we engage different people to bring up their opinions. It's like op-eds from different leaders, and we really encourage you to participate on it because that is going to be a really important way of connecting. One of the missions of of this communication hub will be to unite, to hear each other's point of views, to enrich our point of view with others' point of views. And so our community is so all over this country. Sometimes physically we can't connect, but we can connect through this communication hub, hopefully exchange opinions and enrich each other. Another thing that we have, and we have a great guest to talk about this today, is a college initiative that we founded. Our pilot program, it started with the University of Chicago. We now have other people, other universities, but we want every kid that gets into college to graduate knowing their worth, knowing what they have brought to this country, what their parents have brought to this country, arguments and tools to look for the life that you're looking for once you graduate, and also to educate others, right, on who we are. There are stereotypes, lingering there. There are preconceived ideas that don't really apply to who we are. So this will be an initiative that will aim to, and that is aiming right now to, if you may, equip, students with good talking points and with a good idea of who they are. We also have at the Communication Hub a link to the podcast. And all of you guys, guests today, have participated on our podcast. So imagine, in my opinion, it's really fabulous because of the guests that we bring. We hear from Latino youth, and we learn the way that each one of these leaders have created a huge difference and impact our country. And finally, we also have the newsletter, which will be also some help, some new instrumentos, if you may, for those of you that speak Spanish, but just tools for communication and for empowerment. So with that, I hope you go after we finish our session, because right now we have a program that you'll really like, and I want you to focus on it. um, you know, we have, as I said, this incredible group of people that is with us today, and I want you to hear their voices. And so, for that, what we're going to do is that each one of them will introduce the next one. I will start by introducing Fernanda. Fernanda is incredible. She's my idol. She actually was the first one that I met from this group. I met her because I followed her, and I was always waiting for her new post. And for those of you that don't know her, which I think is going to be very few of you guys, Fernanda has been in the business of highlighting incredible Latino leaders for the longest time, and also empowering with talking points of current events. She's an activist, and she's incredible. So let me start the program with them by introducing Fernanda. And Fernanda is very humble, so she won't tell you this, but she is a prominent content creator. She has more than 1.5 million followers on social media, and she abarks, she really encompasses all kinds of content. She goes with pop culture. She also goes with influential Latinas. She has a lot of historic posts that I really always enjoy, and we actually repost them and try to do more promotion of them, because these are important things that we need to know, not only from our history in this country, but also from our history in our countries of origin. For immigrants like me, that's really important. She has been featured in, a lot of different important places like the Drew Barrymore show, the Ryan Seacrest, productions, in different shows, and then Univision. And she also works with brands. And some of those brands are my favorite brands, by the way. So About Face Beauty, Warner Brothers Discovery, AT&T, Chevrolet, Universal, and more. But I won't, go through the whole list. My favorite part of Fernanda is how much of an outspoken activist she is. Not only does she illustrate us with incredible researched and proven talking points, but Fernanda is also somebody that encourages me to take action, which is really something important. And that activism that she promotes is so extends to a lot of different things. Lately, I've seen her very active in talking about the deportation crisis that our community is facing, and she also promotes several initiatives which fund social services for affected families. And then my favorite fun fact is that she's based in Arizona, but her roots go back to Guadalajara, Jalisco, and so she's very proudly embracing her Mexican heritage and sharing with all of us what that brings for her. So with that, Fernanda, do you want to introduce the next guest?
Yes, thank you for that, Ana. It is my honor to introduce Jay Flores. Jay is a global STEM ambassador who is a leading advocate for Latino representation in STEM. He is a two-time semifinalist on NBC's American Ninja Warrior, which I think is so cool, and recently starred on Amazon Prime Video's Are You Smarter Than a Celebrity? Jay reaches millions of students each month as he serves as a mystery guide on Discovery Education's Mystery Science, the most widely used K-5 science resource in the US. Jay is also the creator and host of It's Not Magic, It's Science, an innovative brand dedicated to providing equitable access to entertaining STEM experiences like his nationwide live science shows featuring experiments disguised as magic tricks, which I want to see immediately. Through his children's book, Engineer Someday, Jay aims to inspire the next generation of innovators, ensuring young children see themselves in STEM. And what I love about Jay is that he doesn't just talk about representation, he's actively creating spaces where young kids, especially from underrepresented communities, can see themselves as innovators and as problem solvers. So please help me welcome Jay Flores.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Welcome, Jay.
Gracias, Fernanda. I similar, very admire the fact that even with 1.5 plus million followers, you never forget about our community and you put true effort and heart into everything that you share with them, including resources and not just talking points, right? So I appreciate everything that you do for our community. And actually, we're taking the show to Guadalajara this year, so maybe we'll have to connect
Definitely. I
and you
need
can
to see
watch
it.
it in your hometown. But it's my pleasure to introduce someone that I'm really excited to get to learn more and to see her grow and see her impact continue to grow because she's starting very young. And that's Jasmine Murillo Espinosa. She is a current third-year student at the University of Chicago. She's helped with the Latino Donor Collaborative's college initiative by connecting the organization with the University of Chicago's Latino Affinity Group. And she's always had a passion for the Latino community, and her first internship was actually at a nonprofit providing legal services at little or no cost to low income immigrants. So she's actually doing the work out there in the community and supporting it in many ways that it's needed. And the coolest part, and what I'm excited to see her bring to life, is that her life goal is to one day become an immigration lawyer. And I think she's going to be an absolutely wonderful one. So thank you, Jasmine. Welcome. And thank you for all you do for our comunidad.
Thank you for that introduction. It is an honor to be introduced by you. I think you represent the community very, very well. I mean, you are, again, how Fernanda said, you are leading in an underrepresented, space such as STEM. And you're also, I mean, semifinalist on American Ninja Warrior. I used to watch that with my family. So that's, I'm really proud that you are representing the community well. And it is my honor to introduce Cristian Maldonado. He is a Salvadoran and Guatemalan creator with 3.5 million followers on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. He uses his information and comedic content in hopes of educating the public, and he's been featured in the TikTok Creator Spotlight and has collaborated with AT&T and Warner Bros. And he was on the National Influencer Campaign in the 2024 elections in hopes to increase Latino voter turnout. And I really hope my mom is watching this because she sent me your videos before. And then your video was the first one that I actually duetted when I joined the LDC. So it's my honor to really be on this panel with you.
They're great. Your videos are great. I have to interrupt with that because I'm such a fan. They're so funny and so illustrating. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, thank you for the introduction. Thank you, Anna, and thank you, Jasmine. Just wanted to reciprocate that and say that I appreciate you for everything that you do yourself too. For being a third year college student in Chicago is amazing, and you're already advocating for the Latino community. And really, I feel like we need more youth and more Latinos in general advocating for our community, because if we're not doing it, who else is going to do it for us? So just want to thank you for doing that, and also for your internship too with the nonprofit, providing legal services at little or no cost to low income immigrant families. That's huge. Families always need the help.
Absolutely. I agree with you totally. And you know what? This is the thing that I love from this introduction. I'm like so touched because that's what we do. Like we've seen you guys work together so much. You guys admire each other. There's this collegiality that quite frankly sometimes in my generation hasn't shown as much. I want to say that we were busy surviving. I want to say that, but maybe that's an excuse. But I see you guys just knowing each other, supporting each other, and that's so important for you today and for your future, quite frankly, and for the future of our community. So, okay, after that great introduction, and I hope some of you learn new things, even if we're fans, sometimes we learn new things about the people that we are fans of. So let's go now to the bulk of this. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to ask a question to each one of you, our guests. I want you to take your time to tell us more about your work. And I also want you at the end to tell us how this communication hub can help you in what you do every day. And this has two purposes. One is so that we know what you do, but the other one is I want the audience to understand and start figuring out how this communication hub can help them too in what they're doing, whether they're activists or if they are influencers or not, whether they're working, whether they're studying, how this can help them to just have a place where you can go anytime. It's for free, and you can access information. And even if you feel like you one day you're down and it's just I'm tired of hearing stereotypings, or I'm tired of hearing people not really knowing who we are, I'm going to go to the Elevate Latinos Communication Hub and feel better, because I will find facts that show me that we are literally the growth of this country. So with that, I'm going to start with Jay. Jay, you are at the front lines of our developing, of everything that we do, developing young US Latino cohort, right? STEM, AI, these are fields, that, do so much for us. And you fill up tours and shows and stadiums. And you also have this reach in mass media, which is so important. You also just recently published your children's book, which is so cute, by the way. Everybody that has little brothers, sisters, kids, well, too young probably to have kids, but anybody that has kids in their families or around them should have this book. It's called Engineer Someday. And it includes prominent Latino representation, which is really important. And I want to add to this that I don't know if you know this, guys, but engineering has a huge tradition in the Latino community. I'm going to give you an example from Mexico. Mexico graduates almost as many engineers every year as the United States, except the United States has 3 times more population. So we Latinos come from a tradition of engineering, of communications in terms of technology, systems, etc. So the fact that Jay is promoting this and is engaging everybody, and including Latinos, into it is very important. We should use those advantages that we have. So, in these trying times, Jay, when Latino identity is being challenged in our community and in our country, quite frankly, how has your responsibility as a public role model adapted to continue keeping Latino kids motivated and hopeful in the face of adversity? And how can our communication hub help you to do this?
Absolutely. Thank you for those comments. And yes, our culture and history is filled with tons of incredible engineering and science. And going back to the poem you mentioned earlier, this specifically the book, but all the work I do is a small piece of my heart for the rest of the community. It's, I think, one of the most beautiful things you can be is the person you needed when you were a kid, and developing into that person and providing the resources that you needed as a child so that other children don't have to go through that.
Mhm.
And I think the one thing my parents did best for me is providing a level of confidence, that no matter what the outside narrative was, they instilled enough confidence in me, enough belief in me, that I didn't let those messages get to me. And it allowed me to keep going, even when I was the only one in the room. It allowed me to keep pushing forward, even though it was very difficult. And so for me, a student who didn't find out really what any type of engineering was until junior year of high school, now I'm on a tour and I have 4-year-olds telling me what their favorite type of engineering is, and listing multiple kinds, and reading the book in English and Spanish, and going back and forth between the two languages and being able to see themselves on the pages. They get to see the Hispanic scientist and engineer that I never saw growing up, that I never saw represented in movies or media or books. They get to see that now. And that's the most rewarding experience for me. And I just feel how much it's needed when I'm going out on these tours and I start handing out the books to the kids. And thank you to all the sponsors that help make that possible. When they'll grab one, this little girl specifically took a look at the book, looked at me, looked at the book again, and then just gave me a hug. It was the cutest thing. And then it started this chain reaction of more of the kids feeling comfortable enough to give me that hug. And I think it's just, she felt represented. She felt like somebody cared about her and somebody thought about her and saw her potential.
Yeah.
And so the more we can provide resources and information through the things that we create, through the way we represent ourselves, and through resources like the Communication Hub, the more chances we'll have when one of these children get into a room where they don't feel included, that they'll still be able to push forward and keep going, because they'll be able to see other examples that look like them or talk like them or have an accent or whatever the challenge may be. They'll be able to keep moving forward, and they'll get through it with a little bit more confidence and energy than they would have if they didn't have that connection with others. So I hope that through the hub, and then just, anyone listening in, with any resource you can create or any story you can tell about your journey, just remember that there's another kid out there that needs to hear that same message that you have. So your words are powerful. And if for whatever reason you don't have the words in the moment, you can come to this hub and you can find other resources and information to help you tell that story.
I love that, Jay. Thank you so much. That's so, so important. And I wanted to tell you, Jay, especially because you're such an incredible engineer. One of the things that we found, we did 2 reports 2 years in a row with SHIP, the Society of Latino Engineers. And one of the numbers that really shocked us in a positive way, which we were so excited, is that in 2010, 4% of all the engineering students in the country were Latinos. 4% in 2010. By 2021, 16% were Latinos. That's a 4 times more engineering students in schools. That's incredible. And I'm sure that you had a lot to do with it, with your, show, and, with your modeling, etc. And also, it's this natural thing that we Latinos have, right? It's this natural logic, entrepreneurship kind of spirit, numbers oriented, which sometimes is different than what we hear from media, right?
Mhm.
The stereotyping in media is not, is basically never based on facts. And I think that what you do with kids is important, that you remind them that. Another important data that we got from them is that through the pandemic, especially first generation students, they got they were it was a huge problem. Schools closed, and automatically students, first gen students, were homeless, jobless, and with no food, right? Because no cafeteria, no dorms, no jobs in the school. And so that was really harsh. And we found a large part of that first generation student, saying that they found themselves in really horrible situations at certain point. But despite that, the graduation generation that went through that all graduated, and they had high graduation rates. So it's the example, it's what we bring from our upbringing, from our heritage, but it's also the perseverance, it's also the resiliency, it's also the whether you had economic problems or mental health issues or anything that you could have been affected by, they still graduated, and they're out there being engineers. And I think that's important. And thank you, Jay, for whatever a lot, I'm sure, that you have done for that group of people, to be able to have that kind of success. Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you, thank you. Okay, now let's go to Fernanda. Fernanda, what can I say that people don't know about you? But I'm gonna go through it. Your content is evidently a huge advocacy for Latinos, just because you show us our worth it, our worth. You show us great stories of how we've changed the history of this country and other countries. Especially, and it's important for my question, I love your knowledge about Mexican heritage, Mexican American history, Mexican history itself, and Mexican talent. That really shows your pride, and how you being part of the Latino community is a vital, strength and superpower for you. And this is especially important because we're facing a sea of false information, not only about Latinos in general in the United States, but also specifically about Mexico. You and I come from a country that we love dearly, that we know deeply, and we know it's not true. There's a reason why one of our supporters, who I love dearly, the former US ambassador of the United States in Mexico, Ken Salazar, a Latino from Colorado, told us that while he was an ambassador from 2020 to 2024, more than 2 million Americans moved to Mexico. So you wouldn't have 2 million Americans moving to Mexico if Mexico was all that those stereotypes say, right? And you are specially equipped, and you have everything that needs to show us that a fact is a fact, right? And so anyway, given that, from your experience, what concrete steps do you recommend, that we take as a community of Latinos, as a community of Mexican Americans, as immigrants like myself? What kind of concrete steps do you, or some of the concrete steps, could you recommend to combat this flood of information in social media, because that's your strength, but also in mainstream media, right? And on all fronts, sometimes in meetings, as an adult, having been in the corporate world and in a lot of different settings of work, I've heard it in meetings, and I've had to stand up and clarify with numbers. So my question to you is, give us some concrete steps that you could recommend, and also how the communication hub of Elevate Latinos can help, in this quest.
Yeah. I think that's why I started my social media career in the first place, is to combat those negative stereotypes about Mexico. I think a lot of times whenever something happens, it gets reduced to a headline. Oh, Mexico is scary, Mexico is dangerous. And what gets lost in those headlines are the real people that are affected by what's happening. And I think people who sometimes use those headlines as maybe just to feel afraid or to sometimes look down on Mexico. And I think a way to combat all of that is to understand that none of this ever happens in a vacuum. It's years of history, it's external factors. So I think learning about the history, understanding that it's more complex than just one simple headline, is what a way to help combat those negative stereotypes and those negative preconceived notions that so many people have about the country. And that's why I think the Communications Hub is great. And I hope that it'll help really put the spotlight on Mexican people, every day Mexican people, and the amazing things that we do, and how we are so much more than any negative headline that might be out there.
Absolutely. And you know what, Fernanda, your quest is so important because, first of all, we know that the main target of this movement lately, and I can't be political because we are a nonprofit, but we can state facts, right? And so the main target of this movement happens to be Mexicans. And then also the non-Mexicans that are targeted constantly complain that they are being that they are being signaled as Mexicans. So I have a very good friend that is Cuban, and he always says this funny thing, and it's funny and it's not funny, but he says, listen, for Latino haters, we're all Mexicans. And it's true. And so that's why it's so important that the brand of Mexico is not tarnished, because in the end, Latino in this country sometimes is equivalent to Mexico, and we all should care about it, right? That's important. Fernanda, another point that I would love to do, to you, is that when you bring us all these important people, when you bring them to our attention, we feel really proud. Sometimes it's for others, we want to show them off, but at the same time, sometimes it's for our self pride. How do you connect with that self pride that we have? Because you connect really deep. That's why we follow you. How do you do that?
I think, I have learned so much through my career as well, because I listen to my followers and I listen to things that they want to hear about. So I think the community is what helps me build pride. I have such an amazing community that is interested in our culture and our history. So that's what brings me pride, is seeing the people that have changed the world, that have changed this country, and just being open to learning every day.
Yeah, so you're saying that you feel you connect because it's an exchange. Like you tell them things, and your audience tells you. And so it's a learning both ways, right?
Totally, totally. It's a community exchange and it's community building.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I think that that's why we want this communication hub to be like a hub. We use that name, because hub is a place where you can go and just feel heard, feel connected. And we hope that we learn from you, right? Specifically with that Substack account, that we learned from you in terms of hearing people. Um, our wonderful staff member, Renata, she is also constantly listening to the comments on our social media so that we know. And again, and this is a question for you too, Fernanda. Not everybody's a lover, right? There are haters too, and we feel for them, and we want to hear them. We may not agree ever with them, but we also want to hear them. And so that's one thing that so tell us, just last question for you, but how do you deal with haters?
Um, I think I think maybe there's two different types of haters. There's a hater you can talk to, and there's a hater you can't talk to, you
That's
know?
so true. That's so true.
So
That's
I think, kind of just, if I see something and I just kind of recognize that this person is so steeped into whatever mentality they have, there's not much you can do about it. But if it's someone that maybe is open to conversation, and that's great. But I think it's recognizing, is this someone that I can like talk to, or is this someone that just has an idea and has a preconceived notion and doesn't want to learn? So I think that's important.
You are so right. There are people that we can learn from and who can learn from us. And
Mhm.
that's the greatest conversation, right? The
Yes.
greatest exchange of knowledge, because I find myself learning a lot from people that I thought originally were just haters. But they're not. But you're absolutely right. Actually, for example, we do a poll every 3 years, and we separate the people that are being polled, and one of the sections is the one that will never change, because you can tell them everything you want and they will just not change.
Yeah.
The interesting part of a poll, for example, or your audience, is the undecided. Those are the people that can listen to arguments, and that you can actually enrich their lives by telling them all these things, because they want to hear it, and they may have been just misinformed. So I agree with you 100%. Thank you for that. That's important to differentiate. Not everybody that disagrees with you is a hater.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm going to Jasmine. Jasmine is such a joy for us, because the way we met Jasmine was that she signed up to be our intern, and through a whole summer enriched everything that she touched. We got incredible insights for our college initiative, but also we got a lot of insights for everything that we do. Jasmine, I think, is the youngest of this group, and the one that teaches a lot where to go next. So it's a pleasure to have you here, Jasmine. And again, you've helped to you have the LDC and Elevate Latinos to kick off our college initiative. And as a student and as part of the affinity group in U Chicago, is your participation has been vital. And I know that you are striving to be an immigration lawyer. So I want to ask you, what practices do you see in current Latino affinity college groups that give you hope for the next generation of US Latinos? And how can we scale this practices through our communication hub for your entire, and all young people, entire community?
Okay, thank you for that question. Two of the most powerful factors that I see are definitely advocacy and cultural pride. I mean, how it's been mentioned, especially under this environment, there are a lot of negative, false representations and lies. And I found that that creates a sense of unity among young Latinos, especially people of my age. I see a lot of advocacy through, what I'm doing through social media, but also like through protests. And this also, I found that this example that we're setting and that older generations have set has also inspired younger ones. I've seen like videos and TikToks about, middle schoolers, high schoolers, or even like really, really young students advocating for the community because they recognize the power of our voice, the power of our numbers, and the power of the Latino community. And they have gained the sense that we know our worth, we know we belong here, we know we're needed. And that's something that the communication hub does really well, with the presentation of data and facts. This isn't just some things people are saying, it's backed up by evidence and backed up by real data. And I think that's really important to emphasize, that without us, the economy would crash. It would be like catastrophes everywhere. And it's, if anyone were to ever like need a little picker up, or show what the Latino community does, they can read those facts, they can read that data and know who the Latino community is and who they can be. They can see themselves, how Jay has helped see people in underrepresented fields such as STEM. They can see that we're everywhere. We're not just what the stereotypes say we are. We are, in powerful leaders. We are powerful leaders. We are entrepreneurs. We're in courtrooms, So yeah, I think that's a really important thing that the communication hub can do and will do.
Absolutely, Jasmine. I agree. And you mentioned two things that are important. One is that the difference. You said two things, right? One is advocacy, and the other one is cultural pride. And I think that probably defines two segments of our mission. One is, again, to create a change, right? Outside, it's important, but also the cultural pride, because you know media has been powerful even with us, right? I find what I call, and it's kind of nasty, but I'm going to say it, but like self-hating Latinos that don't know their worth. And sometimes it's easier. And when I've talked to some people like that openly, they say sometimes it's easier to identify as somebody else, because I've heard so much, you know, so much negative stereotyping that, it just doesn't feel like I have a lot of cultural pride. And I think this is one of the most important parts of Communication Hub, which is to understand. And nobody in this group has that problem, obviously, thank God. But there is a part of our community, right, that may have it, and I understand it. I mean, I was not raised here, so it's easy to be proud of being Mexican. But if I was raised here and I saw signs on the streets that say no dogs and no Mexicans, I probably wouldn't feel as proud. And so those are harsh realities that we have to face and understand. Another problem that I see sometimes is that, I don't know why some Latinos may reject the fact that other Latinos may not speak Spanish. And why don't people ask, I don't know, Scorsese to speak Italian, or, Trump to speak German? But we Latinos demand that Latinos speak Spanish. And sometimes that's unfair too. And so that also creates some problems with Latino pride. And I say I speak Spanish perfectly because, I was lucky enough to be raised in Spanish, but not everybody has that luck. So I think that's important. So that differentiation that you did, I think is so important. Cultural pride and advocacy. And I also want you to speak, please, Jasmine, if you could speak a little bit about that section that I didn't mention within our communication hub, which is the call to action, right? Every week we'll have a call to action that is different. And some of them will be serious, dealing with current events that are painful, but some of them will be fun. So, we're going to talk about, such movie has incredible Latino representation. Support it. Buy a ticket if it's in the movie theater, or subscribe to a platform if they are, constantly promoting shows that actually portray us in a positive light. Or brands, right? With advertising, I just saw the latest advertising of Hyundai, which is this lovely Latino family going to a very elegant party, and they're a great family, and that's what you want, right? To use the power of your purse, to use the power of your vote, to use the power of your voice to for call to actions. And so, uh, Jasmine, tell me a little bit about that. Tell me how you have used that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as part of Elevate, I have used the call to action several times. I mean, I've posted about videos of like different actors and actresses to support who have spoken out about the Latino community, or Bad Bunny at, the Grammys or at the Super Bowl, really targeting that younger audiences, kind of showing them again like where they can be. It's not, that call to action. It's not just, the stereotypes that are being said. You can be somebody, and that's I mean, you are somebody and you can be someone great. And that's something that, the call to action shows. How you said the power of the purse. I support, Latino creators, Latino movies that represent Latinos well, and, sometimes refrain from going to movies that don't. It's very, there's kind of, how you said the power of the purse is very important.
Absolutely. And you point out something really good. There are movies that are very entertaining, but that represent us horribly. I really try to not support them just because you don't want that. I remember there were three shows in last year. There were three shows that talked about shows and movies that talked about like a horrible natural disaster. And they happened, the movies happened and the films happened in LA, and the cast had not a single Latino. So I don't know how the producers decided that 50% of the population died because there was not a single Latino in the cast. And I was like, I'm not giving any money to that movie because that doesn't represent the city and doesn't represent my community well. So I think there are times when, that power is really usable, and we should all exercise it. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you so much. And then finally, Christian. And Christian, you, I think I told you this before, but you inspired us, Elevate Latinos, to do a certain format that you use, which is this, you know, you dressed as different people having a conversation. I think it's transformational. And so you have this power of communicate things in not a judgmental way, but in a really efficient way, I say. So I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about how you started off your career as a very successful influencer, just doing comedy, which is incredible. And then you ended up being an advocate. But I want you to tell us a little bit about it. You've succeeded incredibly, lately, talking about specifically current events and current crisis of the community, but again, not in an accusatory way, but in a way that just creates change. And so I want to ask you, what are some of the motivators, that you had to go from purely comedy to, being more of an activist, if you may, and what have been the challenges? And of course, finishing with how can the Communication Hub help you?
Yeah. So I guess misinformation was one of the biggest things that kind of caused me to do a little bit more advocacy work. But the way that I started was I always wanted to create content just for the fun of it. It was more of a hobby, more so than anything when I first started. And the more I did it, I didn't niche down to a specific genre. I would do music skits, and I did work related humor skits, but also did like growing up in a Latino household. You don't use the dishwasher for dishes, use it for storage. You know what I mean? But just so many different places. But I learned that one of my favorite things to do was to entertain, but also send a message, spread a message, and inform people at the same time. And the way that you said that, I don't try to accuse anybody of anything. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I like to think that people are just misinformed. I'm aware that there's a lot of people that intentionally disinform people for their benefit. But as far as like people receiving information, for example, like undocumented immigrants don't pay taxes, that's false. They pay about $100 billion in taxes a year. And I'll make these videos and I'll see in the comments like, oh wow, I actually didn't know that. Thank you for teaching me this. And on the work side, work skits and stuff like that too. It would be different topics that I would talk about, like pay transparency, also like the best raise is a new job. Switching your job every 2 to 3 years is better than staying at your old job and trying to get a raise that way. But one of my main things was just to try to inform people more than anything. And then with with everything going on in our Latino community right now, I feel like it's really important because we already don't have a lot of representation. So I feel like it's super important for the representation that we do have to speak out. So everybody on this call, thank you for everything that you guys do. But also, I'm mutuals with a lot of other people that do this type of work too, and try to educate and inform the public.
Yep.
And I feel like that's super important.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of the things that the Communication Hub can help out with is information. I've read, some things that you guys have put out already, and it's informative, the statistics. And that's what I try to use whenever I do my skits too, is facts. It's not like I'm trying to be biased or anything. It's like, it is what it is. It's the facts. Here's the information of the impact that Latinos have in the US, for example. But also at the same time, I feel like the Communication Hub will serve as like inspiration and motivation too. Just seeing that when I first started creating TikToks and being a part of social media, I started around the same time as a lot of other creators did. And Fernanda was like one of the people that I first started following too. And seeing like, all these fellow creators rise at the same time was super like motivating and inspirational. So I feel like that helped out a lot too, for me personally. So I feel like the communication hub can kind of help with that too. Just seeing all the people being involved and advocating for our community, I feel like that helps out big time.
Absolutely. You know what, Christian? This is a great point that you're making, because we've seen one of the reports that we do every 6 months is media, right? So participation of Latinos in media, and so therefore we canvass the whole industry, and we've seen the evolution of the industry, and the industry has been really decreasing. I just read an article today that VCs have reduced their investment in Hollywood 67%. And, from the time we started measuring shows, we measured 1,500 shows. Today, we're measuring only 600 because the investment has diminished. And where has that audience go? It's gone to YouTube, to TikTok, to Instagram, to gaming, to all these things that you, the four of you, are driving. You guys are creating the change in front of us that was created 15 or 10 years ago with music, right? Music used to depend on record labels and quite frankly, tyrants that decided what music was cool and what music was not cool. And then suddenly, first Apple Music emerged, then Spotify, then Pandora, and then this other Apple, all these things where you actually were, we audience were now deciding, right? What do we want to support? What do we want to put our money on? And how often? And that's how, Bad Bunny and all these incredible artists emerged and made music democratic. When some people, were haters about Bad Bunny being on the Super Bowl, the answer is who's selling more, more music, and it's him, whether the people that are decision makers want it or not. Bad Bunny was the one that is selling more tickets, and so that's the most important part. So you guys, with what you just said, Christian, you guys, each one of you in this call is creating that change, and it's amazing to see that somebody that saw that change in the music industry, and now seeing you guys bringing all this audience to places where we are seen, where you, my people, are producing, where you are telling my stories, where I could choose to tell my stories too. And you, the four of you, chose to tell your stories, which is amazing and inspirational. I think, and I hope that our communication hub becomes a tool for all of you, because, we want to be part of that process actively, not only with data, but also with opinions, uniting you guys, communicating, amongst you and with your audiences, etc. So thank you so much for everything you do. I thought we were going to have time for questions. My apologies. I probably, made it a little longer than I should. One thing I can tell you is that your questions are being taken in account. We will get back to you with questions, with answers for those questions. I promise you. Um, but I think we're going to have to start closing down our session. And I will ask each one of the four of you to give us closing remarks, to give us a message that you want to tell the audience, about what you do, the importance of what all of us do to empower our community, and maybe some message for young people, right? That are admirers of yours, fans of yours, and that want to hear your opinions and your final message in this session. Let's start with Fernanda.
Okay, I think something you and I, Anna, have talked about a lot is imposter syndrome. So if I were to send a message to young people, it's to walk into every single room like you belong in it, because you do.
Yes.
You're worth more than you think.
Wow, Fernanda, that is so freaking powerful. We do this event for seasoned professional Latina women in New York every year, and we do it at the best place in New York because we have great sponsors, by the way, Wells Fargo, which I'm really proud of. And we do it literally at the first. And so Latinas come to us and say, wow, I mean, I've been in these places, but not with like everybody being Latinas. And the first message that we do when we get the microphone is, you belong here. This is where you belong. Look at yourself. This is where you belong forever. And people cry literally. So your message is so important. Young people should know you guys don't have to earn the place, the seat on the table. Your parents already earned it for you, and it's for you to take over, because that belongs to you already, and you are making it worth it for you by the work that you're doing. So that's so important. It's imposter syndrome no more. Thank you, Fernanda. Now let's go to Jay. Jay, tell us your last words.
Yeah, so I'm the oldest grandchild on both sides of the family. So I'm the oldest cousin, oldest sibling, and there's a lot of challenges that come with that. But my advice is just to invest in our youth, because as the oldest, I was always trying to do everything I could to be the best possible role model for my siblings and my primos and primas. And as I crossed the graduation stage, I had all of their baby pictures in my shirt pocket with me there. And I waved back, knowing that I wasn't going to be the first and only, but I would be the first of many. And that's what got me through engineering. That's what was that motivation, because it's easy to give up on yourself. It's very difficult to give up on the people and the things that you love. So if it wasn't for them and me wanting to be that role model for them, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today. And I've continued to make that kind of like a daily mission, whether it's the book or my science show or experiment kits, is just making sure that I'm investing in young people, because in the end, it's going to make you stronger. And then also, just one last thing is also to celebrate the right things for our community and for them especially. So I wouldn't have got on American Ninja Warrior. I am pretty athletic, but mainly I had a really cool science demo to do before as well. So that helped build my story overall for TV, not just because I can do pull-ups, but because I can do other great things. And to have that celebrated and to have that be the example that our community is seeing, made every single sacrifice and every single workout that much more worth it, because I was able to be that representation that I wanted and needed as a kid.
Super important. You're right. Celebrating ourselves and others. It's not only, Fernanda said, to be proud of ourselves. We have to, and also to be proud of our peers, right? Because that's super important. I love it. I'm the first granddaughter also. So Jay, you're right. It comes with a lot of responsibility, but it is a great motivation to do well. Absolutely. Thank you, Jay. Jasmine, tell us.
Yeah, for sure. Get out there and advocate. Use your voice. You will be heard. Regardless of how many followers you have, post. Even if one person reads it, you're making a difference. Also, gracias a mis papás y a mi familia porque estoy aquí por ustedes. Los quiero.
I know, you're gonna make me cry. Tienes toda la razón, los papás, eso es increíble, los papás son los que hacen todo, y gracias a ellos que estamos aquí, y bueno, bendito sea Dios. Felicidades, Jasmine. By the way, Jasmine has made for us some very nice posts that have gone viral. Thank you, Jasmine. You're a great, digital leader too. Christian, tell me.
So I would say that we need more positive Latino representation. So kind of to piggyback off of what Jasmine just said, if you're creating content, keep creating content. If you're going to school, get that degree, keep educating yourself. We need more positive representation everywhere, in different careers, different fields, in the content creation space, media, everywhere. So also a tip too, if you are creating content, you can block the people that are hating on you. You block them, they can no longer say anything. So huge tip that I have learned recently too. You can also block certain words if you don't want to see certain words in your comment section. So just a tip to throw out there for you guys.
That's a great tip. You're right. That's true. Our Renata in our team is good at that, and she doesn't take the time. She's like, no, let's just block them.
Yeah, exactly.
One last thing on that. While they're spending all of their time, energy, and money hating, if we spend all of our time, money, and energy building our community, we'll just walk right past it. So let's focus our energy in the right spaces.
You're so right. Energy. You have to be an engineer. Yeah, put the energy in the right place. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Jay. And I want to add also what you said, Christian, that you would be surprised. This is what we found with our reports in the last 4 years that we've been focusing on youth. You would be surprised of how many of you there are. We're just not communicating. And that's one of the things of the communication hub, the Elevate Latinos Communication Hub, that we want. We actually Jasmine, let's talk about this, because we need another section where all of you communicate. That's super important. People used to tell me, of course, I'm a different generation, but they used to tell me, "Oh, but you're the exception." And then I found out that I was not the exception. I just didn't know all the others, you know. And so, that's what we want for you, to that you guys know to each other, that you communicate each other, that the power of numbers is with you constantly behind. And so that's another yet of the goals of us. And with that, we're exactly at 12 in Pacific time. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. My last announcement, well, not announcement, it's a reminder. We invite you to officially join and engage with our community, Elevate Latinos Communication Hub. Go to elevatelatinos.com, go to the to the website, of course, but also to the code that is here on the right. And super excited to have you sign up for our newsletter. And to you, the four of you, thank you again for your time, for your wisdom, for the work that you do every day for us. Follow their advice, you guys, audience. You have to follow their advice. They're very wise. And to all the audience, thanks for being with us. Have a great day. You'll be able to see this. It's going to live in our accounts. So you'll be able to see this again. You'll be able to comment, even if you don't see it live. And we look forward to hear all your thoughts and your recommendations. Again, have a great day to the three of you and to our audience, to the four of you, and to our audience. Thank you.